out of sticks and stones, too. Looking at old buildings is really interesting. You know, without today's modern construction equipment, it must have been difficult to build these fine old structures. Perhaps your grandfather or great-grandfather lived in a home like this one. Have you ever wondered how they might have lived, worked, played? Imagine with me popping popcorn at an old stove.
Get ready. Stephen, would you hand me the bowl, please? I'll help you take it out if you want. Please do. Okay. Go ahead, dear. Can you bring it?
Susan, how would you like to finish churning the butter for me while I go and see if the bread's ready?
All right.
Ooh, it is, and it smells so good.
Looks good, too.
Would you like to go and...
Annie, will you please hand me that roulade when you get done carding it? Thank you. Be sure and card well so that it's fluffy enough so that I can spin with it.
What will we make the yarn out of when we're finished?
I thought I might dye it a pretty blue and make a shawl out of it.
Stephen! Yeah? Mother wants you to help gather the eggs.
Oh, shucks, all right.
I found 5 right here. I found 4 right here. Hey, wait for me. Hey, Ethan, look at me. Wait for me. Wait for me. I'm going to the sun today. What do you want to do? I don't know. I don't know either.
Would you hand me the pencil? You? Where did you get these, Ethan? They're all worn out. Excuse me, children. Morning, children. Let's all sit down now. You said good morning. We'll start with one of our favorite poems. You all remember Good Morning? Do you remember it?
Yes, yes.
Okay, I'll read it to you. Good morning, one and all. Oh, what a pleasant day. Here everyone is ready.
It would be difficult to imagine what life was like in the past without artifacts or traces from the past, especially buildings. Then, for an accurate historical record, mankind needs to save some of these. Because weather and time result in decay, walls need to be painted, holes patched, windows replaced, and roofs repaired. A building needs to be maintained as nearly as possible in its original condition if it is to be a part of an historical record. This is called preservation. The government of the United States is aware of the importance of preserving the physical evidence of how our country began and grew. The Department of the Interior has established a national register of the buildings, camps, and trails that are important in America's history. A state register of historic sites has been established to list all the buildings and sites that are important in Utah's history. Preservation can take several forms. Some historic buildings are preserved because an important event took place there, or because an important person lived there. The Beehive House, where Brigham Young also had his office, is a museum restored to its original appearance, giving us a good idea of how he and his wives and children lived each day. The identifying feature of the house is the carved wooden beehive. It surmounts the small square structure, allowing access to the roof viewing area called a cupola. When Brigham Young used this farmhouse, it was way out in the country. Since then, surrounding farmlands have become city lots. Here, Brigham Young experimented with the growing of mulberry trees to feed silkworms. Since it costs a great deal of money to restore an old building to its original condition, and to maintain that building year after year, most are left to decay and become eyesores, or they are being torn down. To make it possible to save more of the historically significant structures, preservation has taken a new direction: adaptive restoration. In adaptive restoration, an old building is changed slightly for a modern use. The new owners are careful to preserve as much of the original atmosphere of the building as they can. This gives the building a living use, a feeling of being lived in. The Keith Brown Mansion, the handsome house of David Keith, who made his fortune in silver mining, was built in 1900. It reflects a quality of living during the Park City mining boom. In 1968, it was adapted for use as an office building. This mansion was built by Thomas Kearns, who also made a fortune in mining. The large home is now used as offices and library for the Utah State Historical Society. Thomas Kearns went on to become publisher of the Salt Lake Tribune. He also served as United States Senator. In Porterville, Morgan County, a ward chapel built in 1898 was abandoned as a church many years ago. Recently, the chapel was adapted for use as a home. Different use has been found for another old church in Salt Lake City. This church, built by the Lutheran Church in 1892, was abandoned when a new church was constructed. Now it is restored to use as a, well, you guess. One of the early industries in Davis County was an old grist or flour mill. The old rock mill was built of rocks washed out of the hills by floods. Today you can visit it as the Heidelberg Restaurant, a good example of adaptive restoration. Sometimes a whole area of a city or a small community is designated as an historic district, when enough of the buildings in that community remain to give a good idea of the flavor of living in early times. The town of Spring City, Utah is off the main highway, and progress has fortunately passed it by. If progress means neon lights, plastic building fronts, or asphalted parking lots. Spring City today is a typical example of an early pioneer farming community. One house built by Orson Hyde in 1860 is very unusual. Because of Indian attacks when the town was first settled, Orson planned his house so that a fresh spring bubbled up in the basement. The spring is still flowing. Arrow Press Square in Salt Lake City is an historic district in a more confined area. It is arranged around a park or plaza.